Better.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. My name is Oluyemi Adeosun. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, unlocking the power of assessment in HR consulting for effective talent selection in Nigeria. Our facilitator is Opeyemi Abdul, and I'll be reading our profile. You can see already from the screen that she's an associate of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. And she also has the HR practicing license. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to this, she is a member of the HR Certification Institute with a professional diploma in human resource PHRI for experienced HR practitioners. She is experienced and certified HR body with solid background in client relations, talent acquisition, organizational development. She's also skilled in managing cross-functional teams, driving business goals, and optimizing employee experiences. In addition to this, she's adept, at navigating complex work environments, maintaining focus on compliance, performance management, and employee engagement. She has demonstrated experience in managing client relationship to foster business continuity and also provide excellent solutions regarding business requirements based on clients' needs and requirements. She currently sits as the HR consultant and talent assessment analyst with a leading HR consulting firm. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking to us tonight on the topic, unlocking the power of assessment in HR consulting for effective talent selection, I present to you Opeyemi Abdul. You have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Like Dr. Oluyemi has mentioned, my name is Opeyemi Abdul, and an HR professional. And today, I'll be speaking about unlocking the power of assessment in HR consulting for effective talent selection in Nigeria. Without further ado, let's just get into it. This is like the overview of what we'll be talking about in the HR consulting space in Nigeria. We'll also be talking about the talent selection challenges in Nigeria and competency based assessment, the key competencies for evaluation, and why competency based assessments matter in Nigeria. We'll also be talking about the benefits of competency based assessment for talent selection and implementing competency based assessment in HR consulting. So let's get into it. HR consulting in Nigeria. When we talk about HR consulting in Nigeria, basically it refers to the professional services provided by specialized firms or individuals who assist organizations with human resources related activities. So basically, HR consulting. We have, I'm sure that a couple of us would be familiar with some HR consulting firms we have in Nigeria, like Jobberman, like Estrada, like Workforce, like um, we have various HR consulting firms in Nigeria, and basically what they do is to help organizations with business solutions that revolve around people and process optimization. They help with talent acquisition, helping to select the right talent that the client may need, and they also help with recruitment and staffing, training and development. They can help with compensation and benefit plan, performance management. They can also provide compliance and legal advice, and then they also do HR strategy and planning. So basically, HR consulting helps organizations to find the right talent and ensure that employees fit well within the company structure. So basically, they help organizations to make smarter and more strategic HR decisions. And you can also say that they make the HR function easier on organizations, like for organizations that maybe do not have the manpower to carry out these HR functions themselves. That's where these HR consulting firms come in to make the load and the job lighter on those organizations. Um, so there are like different challenges that may arise in the process of talent selection in Nigeria, and we all know that Nigeria faces its own unique HR challenges. There are like knowledge gaps, skill gaps. There's high turnover, like sometimes high employee turnover, and then most of the time there's also lack of qualified talent. When I say lack of qualified talent, I mean that there are some times that um, there might be talent, but there's no appropriate manpower that helps to find those talents and put them in the right jobs, to find the right fits for the right jobs. So hiring people in itself, hiring the right people is tough, and the stakes are high, especially with the what's the word now, with the way the Nigerian economy fluctuates. It is important that organizations hire the right people that can help them do their job effectively, to help them cut costs, and to help them reach their business goals. So and that's where competency based assessments, that's where they come in HR consulting. So briefly, let's talk about competency based assessments. Actually, there are actually different types of assessments. We have the psychometrics assessment, we have personality tests, we have balance scorecard, and we also have competency based assessments. But basically tonight what I'm going to be really touching on is this competency based assessment. So let's just get into it. Competency based assessments, like I stated here, they are tools that measure the skills, the behavior, and the knowledge necessary for success in a role. Um, Basically, they help us to find the right fit, not just in terms of qualification, but also cultural and behavioral alignment. So, when I say that they help us find the right fit, right, it's not just when we want to hire candidates, or when we're trying to find candidates that suit a profile. Organizations usually come with job descriptions, or probably a job brief of what they want, and this job brief, it doesn't just include the qualifications that they need for the job. They want to find someone that meets their culture fit of their organization. They want someone, sometimes they might need someone with experience, or probably someone with little to no experience, someone that they know and trust, that can effectively carry out this job, not just in terms of qualification, in terms of culture fit, in terms of sometimes ambition, and sometimes in terms of experience level, and in terms of technical competency as well. So these assessments, that's competency-based assessments. They can also be loosely called CBAs. So CBAs focus on evaluating the candidate's core competencies, their skills, their attitude, and behaviors that are essential for the role. Basically, everything that they would need, everything that they would need, or that we would need to assess them to determine if they are a right fit for the role, and if they will be able to carry out this role efficiently. So it is not just about what they know, right? It is not just about their knowledge. It is also about how they approach challenges, how they collaborate, their team spirit, and how they solve problems. Their problem solving capacity as well. So the key competencies that we evaluate when we talk about CBAs. First off, we evaluate the technical competencies. So when you say technical competency, we think of the job specific skills, like the financial knowledge for accountants, or coding skills for software developers, or for someone that works in customer experience, maybe empathy or active listening. Basically the skill sets that they would need to effectively carry out their job in terms of technicality. We also have behavioral competency. It focuses on interpersonal skills, like communication, like teamwork, like leadership. How well do they handle stress? Do they have a proactive mindset? When you talk of behavioral competencies, for example, if you're filling a team lead role, you want to hire a candidate as few as worked in a leadership capacity. How does this person manage people? What's their people skills like? What's their interpersonal communication skills like? Are they the kind of person that are proactive? Are they the kind of people that take charge? So those are the kind of things that we talk about when we talk about behavioral competencies. And then culture fit is also one of the key competencies that are evaluated. It is about whether the person shares a company's values and can adapt to the work environment. So when you talk about adaptability, you want to know, is this person the kind of person that learns? Is this person the kind of person that is open-minded? Are they willing to stretch their capacity? Are they willing to stretch themselves in terms of capacity? Are they the kind of people that they are willing to learn and all of that? And then culture fit can also talk about the organization's companies, their values, and they want to. When you talk of culture fit, you want to know if the candidate is someone that aligns with the goals, the mission, and the values of these organizations. So competency model. Organizations define a set of competencies that align with their goals and specific demands for the roles. So these models, right? They are customized for each position, ensuring that hiring decisions are aligned with business needs. Now, when you talk of competency models and how organizations define the competencies that they want, it simply means that for example, for someone like me that works as a talent assessment analyst, usually when a new role is open and then the talent acquisition guys are sourcing for a role, it's usually after we've sat with the client to really understand what they want. We've gotten the job description and then we have the job brief from the client. Oh, this is the kind of candidates that they want. This candidate, they expect that this person, the candidates that are coming from us, they've been assessed on the first level, which is the CBA, and at least the profiles that they're getting profiles of candidates that closely fit with the brief that they have given us. Um, so why competency based assessments matter in Nigeria? Well, competency based assessments are very important for a number of reasons, and I'll be going through that reasons in this those reasons rather in this slide. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is aligning with organizational needs, which is for me the most crucial point why competency based assessments matter. In Nigeria, we have different organizations, and their challenges differ depending on the industry that they play in. And then by focusing on competencies, organizations can ensure that new hires are equipped to meet both technical demands and cultural expectations. So basically, our job as the HR consulting person and the talent acquisition or basically the talent manager, is to make sure that we find the right fit, we find the best candidates that fit the job description, that are well equipped to handle the particular role that we're sourcing for and that suits the organization's needs. By organization's needs, I mean the client's needs. So to reduce, the second point would be reducing bias in hiring, which is one of the biggest advantages of CBAs is that they help to remove biases. You are evaluating candidates based on measurable skills. Um, you can not just on gut feelings or past connections. So basically, what we do is, or basically, I will say what I do, because what is applicable in one organization might not be applicable in another organization, is to develop what's the called? Is to develop a template, right, for each role. So by that template, we know that we're assessing the technical skills, the biodata, the job, um, the cultural fit, and all of that. And then the salary expectation as well. And then we are measuring this based on the SMART model. smart, measurable, specific, and all of that. So you're not just selecting. It helps to reduce bias in hirings because you're not just selecting talent based on your gut feeling or based on the relationship that you have with the person. There's a template that you're following, and the person either fits with the profiles or they don't. There's no in between. You know. The third point would be improving performance and productivity. So how does competency-based assessment, how does it improve performance and productivity? Simply put, when you hire candidates that are well suited to the job and the company culture, you're more likely to see a strong performance. It's not just about filling a position, it's about finding someone that is going to thrive in that position. How do you find someone that is going to thrive in that position? I mean, 80% of the time you might not be like 100% there, right? But then when you speak to people and you do CBAs, I mean, CBA is like the first level just to get to know them, to see if can they do this job, are they qualified for this job, at the point of sourcing for the role, there are qualifications that you require, and by meeting them at the first level, which is the CBA, we are obviously they are qualified for the role, but then you're now meeting them to know based on the brief that you have gotten from the candidate. So this helps you to it helps you to churn the number of candidates that the number of profiles rather that you're sending to the clients, because you can say, oh, this person sounds like they can thrive with this role, this person sounds like they'll be a good fit for the role. So when you streamline the number of candidates, when you streamline the profiles that you're sending to the clients based on the number of candidates that you have met, it it improves performance and productivity on the role. um addressing skill gaps is the fourth point, and addressing skill gaps matters in it helps it matters in competency based assessment, because in Nigeria there's often a gap between the skills company needs and the available talent. This is not just in Nigeria, right? It's not just in Nigeria. Most of the time, there's often a gap between what the company really needs and the talents that they have, and this is why CBAs are there, because it can help bridge that gap. By identifying the right people with the right potential. They might not necessarily fit the traditional mold. There might be people that think out of the box. There might be people that, when you look at the person, you might not think that they can fit the role, but when you sit them down to assess them, then you notice that there might be potential, or this person might have more to offer if they are given a chance, you know. And that is where CBAs come in to close skill gaps. So, what are the benefits of CBAs in for talent selection? So, by focusing on competencies, right, we can hire people that not only meet the technical requirements but also match companies' culture and expectations. I think we've talked about this before, and this also results in job satisfaction and performance, because when you hire people that are competent, when you hire people that can get the job done, they not only match the expectations of the organization, they not only improve the client's company culture. For them, they do their job. It increases job satisfaction, it increases job performance, and then it boosts their own morale as individuals as well. And then candidates understand exactly what is expected of them in the role. This is where CBAs are important, and this is one of the specific benefits of competency based assessment, because when you're speaking to a candidate and you're trying to assess them based on the information that you have regarding the role, in the process of this CBAs, before the candidates meet with the clients that is hiring, it helps them understand what is expected for them on this role. It sets the stage for greater success and clearer goals. When they By the time they meet the client, they already know that, oh, this is what is expected of them. This is what they should be able to do in performance of this role, and they're able to ace their interviews at the client's meeting stage as well. Also, when employees are a good fit, they are more likely to stay. This reduces the chance you're aligning personal and professional attributes with the job. Yes, there's also a section for um, professional career goals. Basically, there's also a section in CBAs where you want to make sure that you're aligning the person's personal career goals, where they see themselves in the next couple of years, maybe in the next 5 years or the next 10 years. You're aligning it with your clients' values and their goals and their mission. There must be an alignment. It might not be direct, but where does this person see themselves? Are they willing to take on this role because they think that they can grow in the role, or are they just taking the role just because? It can even help you ascertain the interest of the candidates in the role. You know, competency-based assessments also help to ensure that the hires align with the client's culture, their work style, which strengthens organizational culture over time. So we all know that Nigeria has a huge and untapped talent pool. It's not just untapped. In fact, the market is oversaturated, right? Because I don't even want to get into that. But basically, competency-based assessment help us to, identify candidates who may not just have the traditional qualifications, but also possess the right skill sets and the potential to succeed. It might not just be potential; it can also be ambition. It can also be passion. It can also be the right drive, that you need for the role. By focusing on the right competency as HR professionals, we can create a more inclusive hiring process that looks beyond resumes and past experiences to assess a person's true potential. So technically, when we focus on the client's job brief, it can help us to select the right candidates that fits the client's expectation, which is what we've talked about in the previous slide. So implementing CBAs in HR consulting. Um, the first step is to get the job brief from the client and to get the job description. Most of the time, when there's a new role and the client is handing over a role for an for like an HR consulting firm to source for, they usually come with their job description. So we can start by working with the clients to clearly define the key competencies needed for the role, the expectations, the qualifications, and this is the foundation of effective talent selection, because you need to know what you're looking for to be able to find the right fit. Step two will be designing the assessment tools. So, designing the assessment tools, basically, you need to tailor assessments to match the competency required. So, there are some times that it might not just be the qualifications, it might be the technical bits, um, especially for technical roles like software developers, UI, UX, and all of that, that you might need to know what programming language are they familiar with and all of that. So you need to tailor assessment to match the competencies that are required to create tests and activities that would effectively evaluate both the technical and the behavioral skills. And then sometimes you might also need to design like an assessment template. An assessment template basically might be like a template sheet that helps you streamline the questions and the information that you need from the prospective candidates to ascertain if they'll be able to do the job effectively. So step three will be to administer the assessment. You can use these tools or templates during the key stages of the recruitment, whether through candidate sourcing, the CBAs, or through the initial screenings, the interviews, or the assessment, so that each candidate is evaluated fairly. So step four will be to evaluate and make that data-driven decisions. So obviously, like I've mentioned before, you don't just rely on your gut feeling or your intuition. You use data from the assessments to make well-informed decisions. So it is not just about the facts; it is also about what what are the information that you've gotten from this CBAs that you have carried out. How do you feel about the candidates that you met? Do you feel like this person will be able to carry out the job effectively based on how they, performed in the assessment? Do you feel like they are well equipped to carry out the roles? Also, it's not just about the answers that they give you during the assessment. Sometimes it's about how they answered the question. Sometimes it's about, the roles that they filled previously. How did they perform on those roles? What are the kind of tasks that has been given to them on those roles? Step five will be to continuous review and improvement. So another thing that we can administer to develop ourselves is to regularly revisit the competency models and assessments to ensure that they stay relevant. This is very important to the evolving needs of the clients and industry trends. So basically, as assessment analysts, we need to also, as talent managers, or rather, I'm using the word talent managers because there's different stages attached to the whole talent acquisition. So basically, we have to make sure that we are strategic in the methods that we use for assessment so that we don't lose touch. Basically, so conclusion, competency-based assessments basically are a powerful tool for making smarter data-driven hiring decisions. They improve the fit between the candidate and the role, leading to long-term outcomes for both the organization and the employee, right? I would encourage HR professionals and companies in Nigeria to start integrating different types of assessment as well as CBAs into their recruitment strategies to unlock the true potential of their teams. So that will be all from my end for now. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know if anybody has a question or anything.
Thank you so much. You can please stop sharing your slides so that we can just see you directly. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an opportunity for us to ask questions around the subject matter, which is on unlocking the power of assessment in HR consulting for effective talent selection. And I'm also sure that any question around talent selection in general, our able facilitator will be most glad to oblige us. But I have a few questions that I've taken notes here, just for the benefit of everyone. Now, when you say assessment, what's an assessment? What are the different types of assessment? On a general note, how do you know that this kind of assessment is good for this kind of role? Let me give specific example. For example, when should you do an aptitude test? If you are doing aptitude test, we are also aware that there are different types of aptitude tests. For example, GMAT, DRE, quantitative reasoning. So along those lines, if you can just give us some overview on assessment, why we even do them? Why don't we just, maybe in some instances, go ahead and just interview? So please, along those lines, from your heart and from your experience, if you can just share with us. It's just one question that occurred to me that it will also enrich our listeners' understanding of this topic. Thank you for now.
All right. So okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ma'am.
All right, so there are different types of assessment, like I mentioned earlier. So first off, assessments are used basically to gather information and to make decisions. To um, to ascertain, you know, a person's potential and basically what they can do. And then there are different types of assessment, right? There's psychometric assessments, there's personality tests, there's competency based assessments, like I've mentioned. And this different types of assessments is just that's just a few that I've mentioned. There are also other forms of assessment as well. So basically, these assessments are used to in hiring, rather in the talent space. Basically, they are used to first of when you're trying to find the right fit for a job, like I mentioned earlier, there's the pre-screening stage, right? Because apart from assessment, we usually have what you're looking out for, probably qualifications. What do you need these candidates to have, right? And then you've done the pre-screening, and then assessment can also be a form of interview, right? Because when you're doing interview, you're assessing whether this person can carry out this role effectively. So basically, when you're doing assessment, you already know what you're looking for, right? You already have what you want the candidates to have, and you're just meeting this person because you want to know if they will be able to do this job. And so probably before you you have things that you're looking out for to know if the person can carry out the job, right? And then you basically, there are different type of strategies, right? Sometimes depending on the volume of applicants, I think that's where different types of assessment come into play. I know that in banking sometimes psychometric assessment is done to ascertain like the kind of, there are like mental assessments, and kind of there are no right or yes answers, and then there's personality tests to see if this person fits into the personality profile or the kind of person you're looking for. But basically, the assessments that I've talked about today, which is the competency based assessment, I specifically mentioned competency based assessment because I know that that's the kind of assessment that is mostly used in HR consulting, because as consultants, you're hiring on behalf of a client, right? And you've been given like a job brief or a job description, and you're just trying to make sure that you're even making the right business decision for yourself and for your clients, right? To make sure that the profiles that you're sending to the clients, that they are the right fit. And so based on that job description, you want to find out if the candidates that you're meeting is technically sound. Do they have the right skill set to do this job effectively? When they meet the client, are they going to be able to express themselves? Do they have the experience level that is in their CV that they have, and all of that? So that is basically what forms the whole that's basically what sums up assessment for me. I don't know if that clarifies your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Any other question, comments, please? If you raise your hands, we'll enable you to speak. Okay, let me ask another question. Okay, fantastic. Mr. Delacun, you have the floor. You can unmute.
Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. So it's so glad for me to join this session tonight. And this is my first time joining HR mentorship and webinar session. And it's purposely because of the speaker you brought on board. So for me, competency-based assessments holds or play a good role in selecting the best talent. So for me, I worked in the consulting space at some point, and I see the importance or the relevancy of competency-based assessments. So for me, one of those key things I was able to see was that it helps to save a lot of time around sharing several profiles, sharing several talents to different of our clients. And so it's just like more of like double verification on every talent that we are pushing forward, and giving this ascertainment that no, this candidate that we're pushing, we've done our due diligence around the profiles. So for me, the question I have is that how do we see, or how do we check for a culture fit candidate for some roles that are very technical, or for some senior roles that are very culture based inclined? So when we are doing our competency based assessment, how do we check for competency culture fit based when we are asking them some sort of questions? So that's just my question for now.
I think Moyo has a question.
All right, thank you so much for that question. I'm sorry, my network was interrupted there for a second. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, ma.
All right. So, if I heard your question correctly, Mr. Adilaku, your question was, how do we check for culture fits for clients during competency-based assessment, right? Are you there?
Yes, yes, okay, yes, go ahead.
All right. So, for me, checking for culture fits during CVAs is basically evaluating whether the candidates' values, their behaviors, and their attitude aligns with the organization's culture, along with assessing their skills and their competencies. So basically, there are different ways that we can incorporate like culture fit evaluation during CBAs, right? And I'll just like to give an example for like a company that values innovation. They will probably prioritize creativity. They would want someone that is a risk taker, right? That is proactive. While another organization that values like customer relationship management, they would like a candidate that is very patient and empathetic and that has good communication skills and basically can manage people well. So basically, during CBAs, what we do is to incorporate behavioral questions and scenario-based questions to kind of like ascertain what these candidates would do in in different scenarios. And sometimes it's not necessarily the answers they give. It's the way they answer the questions that would enable us to ascertain whether this kind of candidate would be the best fit that would align with the company culture of the client. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. We have quite a number of hands up. So based on how I saw the hands, we'll call you quickly. Moyo, please, you have the floor for your contributions or your questions or both.
Oh, okay. Okay, good evening. And pertaining to the question I want to ask on assessment, basically, I didn't really join early, but from the little that I had, and I want to ask on, okay, so assessment varies from company to companies. So
Right.
however, is it really, should it be a continuous thing in an organization, even where you are being recruited and you're on the job already? Should assessment be a continuous thing to all staff in the organization to check them in, or maybe monthly or weekly or quarterly, or depending on what the organization? Do you think assessment should be a continuous thing or not just a one-off thing for recruitment?
All right. So thank you very much for that question. So yes, for recruitment, assessment is just assessment, pre-screening, interview is just to make sure that we find the right fit, for the job. But on the job, right, during after the candidate has been hired and over time, I think that we have different type of performance. That's what the performance management specialists are there for, to make sure that people are doing their jobs, or if they are struggling with doing their jobs, do they have the right resources that guide them in doing their jobs? And I think that's where the whole KPI thing is. That's why we have KPIs, that's key performance indicators. Key performance indicators are also like internal assessors that help us to ascertain, is this person performing optimally, are they performing up to standard of the expectations for their role? If they are not performing up to the standards expected of them, how can we come in as an organization to make sure that they have all the resources needed? So yes, I think that assessment is a continuous thing, even for personal development as well, not just for hiring decisions and talent selection. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I added an addendum. You will take it, please, after when you are responding to any of the questions. And I said, like, for example, can you use the CBA, okay, competency-based assessment for a promotion exercise or for an internal recruitment? Maybe there is a vacancy within the organization. Can you use it for internal recruitment? Or maybe you want to use it to determine whether people are eligible to be promoted to the next level on the cadre. While you are that, say Aliyu Ibrahim. Aliyu Ibrahim, please, you have the floor for your contributions, questions, or both.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this topic. Yeah, somehow is is an area that I am a little bit familiar with. So I just wanted to contribute to the question that somebody was asked, how you can assess this in a candidate using a competency-based this in an interview processes. I know that assessing culture fit through competency-based interview. I think it involves crafting questions that align with the organization's core values. It's from the core values you'll be able to now determine by when you craft questions out of the core values of the organization, that actually explains what the culture of that organization is. This approach will now enable you to evaluate how well the candidate's behavior, skills, attitudes align with the company's culture. So thank you very much. Where you emphasize that behavioral questions are now fixed is in the competency based questions, because by the time you take the competencies that are required, ask questions based on those competencies, then you now come to the behavioral aspect of it. Like you rightly said, that you ask some scenario based questions and all of that. So by the time the candidate is able to demonstrate what they can do in that aspect, how they can do it, you'll be able to now ascertain, okay, this is the kind of behavior that this person will exhibit in an organization. Then you're able to know if the behavior actually fit the culture of that organization. That is just the little contribution I wanted to put in. So it has to depend on your core value, the core values of the organization. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, sir. That's very insightful. Thank you.
All right, we'll move over to Fumilola Mobolaji, please. After we'll take Akemi. Fumilola, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Something can hear me. Am I audible?
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you, Miss Fumi. I don't know. I think it's the network. I don't know.
It may be the network, and it's raining in some parts right now.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone on the call. Okay, so I really appreciate the facilitator for this topic. It's value-laden. So I just wanted to lend my voice to the presentation saying that CBA is very important. It actually helps to access the candidate before sending the candidate over to the client. It helps you to know it likes based on the needs of the client. So during the assessment stage, you would know if the candidate is really invested in answering the questions, the way the candidate answers the questions, the way the candidate is able to communicate his or her thoughts. In this period of AI, it all becomes easy. They can easily just put the question in ChatGPT and ChatGPT gives them the answers or the responses. So you know if the candidate is actually rushing to answer the question, some will just give one-liner or two-liner and they are done. While you see some people will give a step-by-step approach. So this assessment, even before you are meeting them physically, you know how they think, you know their thought process, you know if you'll be moving forward with a candidate or not. So it's really a good one. And I really want to thank the facilitator. So now to my question. This assessment, however, have received some kind of backlashes. There are these people with this school of thought that When you send them the assessment, they feel you have some problems you want them to give solutions to, and they call it intellectual theft, and they want you to pay, that you are consulting them, they want you to pay for that consultation. So they come at you and say, no, I can't answer these questions. No, you want to steal from my knowledge. No, you need. So from your own point of view, how would you respond to this? And also, secondly, if, for example, you probably an open role for talent acquisition specialist, and then have a person is is just looking well, and then you tell them to provide probably 2 or 3 states matching the role just for you to accept it. Is it a good workplace practice? Is it a bad workplace practice? What are you?
All right, thank you so. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Fumlola. I didn't hear the last bit of the things you said. I think the network interrupted at some point. But if I caught most of the things you said, I think that you were talking about intellectual theft, like some candidates that when they come in for assessment, they feel like the questions you are asking them is to, maybe store their answers in some kind of database for your own personal gain, right? That how do we address this issue? Can you guys hear
Yes,
me?
that's
Yes.
the question. So let me just do the second question since you said you didn't hear it. So I was talking about probably you need to recruit for a talent acquisition specialist role, and then part of your assessment is that such candidates provide 2 or 3 CVs matching a role that you have provided during the assessment, just for you to further assess the candidate to be sure that when you recruit the candidate will be able to source for CVs aligning with the needs for that role. So I'm asking you if you think it's a good workplace practice or a bad one. What are your thoughts?
So for me, let me answer the first part of the question. So for the first part of the
If
question,
you don't mind, ma'am, maybe you should first paraphrase the question for the benefit of those that didn't hear it. Just paraphrase the question.
okay, all right. So I think that the first bit of the question was talking about intellectual theft. When candidates come in and they feel like you are asking them questions, and those questions are not necessarily to ascertain their potential or what they can do, but just to have their answers in your database for your own personal purposes, and what can be done in that kind of situation. And then I think at second question, she gave an instance of you're trying to hire for probably a talent acquisition role. And then as a talent acquisition specialist or as the recruiter, basically you are asking candidates to probably give you 2 CVs or 2 profiles of candidates for a potential role, just to know how well they can source for candidates. And yeah, so that's what I got from a question. All right.
Yes, you
So
can respond, please.
so for me, the first bit about intellectual theft, I can't say I've not heard that before. But then I mean, how I understand it basically is for you to be sitting in on an assessment or an interview, it basically means that you want to be there because you want to be assessed for a role, or you want to be screened for a role that you're looking towards getting, right? Depending on what you're being asked to do, I don't the assessments basically, or the interviews, are to basically assess your capability. I don't necessarily think that, I don't know. I feel like this question may require context. I feel like this question may require context because I don't know what kind of situation would amount to candidates thinking that you want their answers to, use for your own personal purposes. So I don't know if I have sufficient information to answer that. But for the second bit,
So
I know.
let me add to the question. Hello, Ma, before you move away from the question, because I will be happy if you can respond to it. So it may not be the consulting firm. It may even be the actual hiring firm that is looking for solutions to some of their work or business problems. So they will now put out those problems as case studies so that 20, 30, 40, whatever candidate will respond to it. They will probably not hire anybody or hire one or two, but they will have harvested intelligence to solve their problem for free without paying the applicants who contributed meaningfully to the solution. That is why some candidates like try to put one-liners, two-liners, so that you don't just use their brain for free. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, that definitely helps. But then in that situation, I don't think that anything. Basically, for now, from my own perspective, though, I don't think that there's anything that can be done for now to regulate that. I mean, I've had quite a few instances myself that I've gone to an interview and then I'm given like a case study question to answer, and basically I just answer it because I'm there for the job anyway. So I don't think, I mean, this is Nigeria and a lot of things go without regulation in the labor market. So I don't necessarily think that there's anything that can be done for now or that I know of that I've heard of to regulate those kind of situations.
Okay, okay.
However, the
I also
second
think one
question.
of the things that, yeah,
Okay, yes, I'm
go
listening.
ahead, go ahead.
No, you were going to say something.
I yes, I wanted to say one of the reasons sometimes candidates are skeptical is that a lot of time, if not all the time, recruiters or consulting firms do not disclose the organization.
Yes, yes.
So they just give study to clients or to, sorry, not clients in this context, to candidates. And candidates, if they knew the specific organization, maybe they will have done a little extra research or something, or the overall of their approach to the question. So people like we are responding to questions blindly in good faith. We don't know anything. And I'm just saying this from feedback from candidates to a large extent to consulting firms don't give feedback to the candidate to say you are successful, you are not successful. They will just go cold 3 months later, 6 months later. I guess I suspect that maybe it's because of the huge volume of applications that they get when hiring for candidate. But people say, if you can reach out to me to do an assessment, whatever the assessment is, at least you should be kind enough within 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. But consultant will say they are waiting for feedback from the client. So what do you have to say to all this conundrum?
Okay, so for me, not reaching out to candidates after whether their application was unsuccessful. I feel like that's not best practice, regardless. I mean, whether you have selected the candidates that you want to proceed with, I feel like all candidates that applied or that showed up for assessments or interviews, they should get some sort of feedback. I mean, it helps them in their job search, even if it's just to say, "Oh, sorry, we could not shortlist you because we found a better candidate, but this and this and this is what we could have done better." I mean, it also helps um, the applicants as professionals to develop themselves. And then the part where you mentioned the HR firms coming up with case study questions for their clients. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that that applies, right? Because for us as HR firms, I mean, that I know of, I know that when we do pre-screening, it's just to make sure that we find someone that closer fits the job description, right? To make sure that we find the right fit for the job. I think that this scenario where she was talking about intellectual theft, I think that's more from the point of the clients themselves when the candidates get to the stage of the interview with the client. I think that's where they try to, probably do things for their own personal gains. I don't think that HR firms themselves will put themselves in that kind of situation because, as HR professionals, we are like at the core of, being labor law compliant, even though everything goes in Nigeria. But I think that to an extent, no HR firm should put themselves out there because they also talk. There's also candidate experience, and then you don't want to come off as a brand that candidates are not having a good experience with, like, oh, when they say, oh, this HR firm is recruiting, oh, don't bother to apply because they will not treat you well, or you go through this and go through that. I don't think any HR firm wants to be managed wants their brand to be projected in a bad light as well.
Thank you so much. We take Akiemi next, and
Sorry,
then
I don't
Israel.
think I answered that. Okay, I think I answered the second question. So, but she had a second question about I think she painted a scenario of when for example, you're trying to hire for a talent acquisition role, and then the candidate is being asked to provide CVs of prospective candidates prospective candidates. I honestly, I personally don't think that that's best practice because even in the consulting world, when you're trying to give CVs to clients, I mean, there should be some level of signed agreements that would make you share personal details of candidates to clients. And then when that particular client has not signed some form of service level agreement, the profiles are shared anonymously. So for you as an employer to tell me to share profiles with you because I'm a talent acquisition specialist, it's already a red flag for me because if you want to ascertain whether I'm able to get the job done or whether I'm good at recruiting or whether I'm good at getting profiles at the right time, why not why not assess me based on my experience level, based on what I've done before, how based on what are these channels that I recruit through, how well am I with recruiting in different industries? Why do I have to bring in profiles for you at the point of being recruited to let you know that I can get the job done? It's a red flag, and I honestly don't think that's best practice. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well done. Akiemi, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Um,
evening.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the subject matter. Now, from experience, I've come to realize that very smart candidates can bamboozle all the processes of selection, either competency-based, tests, or whatever, to beat, those who are selecting and get hired. And when they now resume at their station, they discover that within 3-4 months, you find out that they are not competent as they have displayed during the interview processes. So how can we mitigate against this failure in selection? What else can we do to reduce the failures? Thank you very much. I hope
All
I have
right.
made myself clear.
Yes, you have. So for me, I think that there's no 100% chances in anything, right? I mean, nothing is perfect, and even as human beings, I don't think that anybody can say that they can do something perfectly 100%, right? We can only try to do our best as HR professionals. I mean, you can put metrics in place to make sure that, oh, you're trying to find this candidate. You want to make sure that, oh, they have the right skill set, they are qualified, or they have some sort of level of experience, or do they align with the overall business goals, are they a culture fit, and all of that. But then you might not be able to tell if that person will be able to do their job, right? Okay, so for instance, I think there was a role that was filled, was it last month, for a client, and it was a residential chef role. And for this particular role, we needed the candidate to have some sort of culinary experience, be able to cook intercontinental and local dishes, be able to speak the local dialects, be able to be willing to relocate if they are not within the if they are not within the location of the client, because the client was also willing to, give accommodation. And we pre-screened a lot of candidates, and we eventually selected a number of candidates, and we met those candidates. And we met those number of candidates for assessments, right? And after meeting those number of candidates for assessment, about maybe three or four of them were pushed to the client. And even after the level of competency-based assessment, even the client does their own interviews as well to say, oh, okay, these are the profiles that were shared with us. Let's meet with these people and see how well they can do. And then this particular candidate was selected, and then this person went, and after a few months the client terminated the person's contract based on the fact that, like, the person could do everything that was needed in the job description, but the particular chef was dirty. That was the client's complaint. So now the question that was posed as from management was, how did we not know at the level of competency based assessment that this candidate is dirty? Do you understand? And so for me, it was, how did I miss that? I mean, sometimes we focus on different things that we miss even the tiniest little details. And that's why, I mean, nobody can be 100% perfect, and we can only do our best to make sure that
So
we
when you want to test for, now you must add competency assessment for cleanliness.
Exactly. I mean, if you ask somebody how would they do this, or are you clean on a scale of 1 to, of course they will tell you they are clean. I mean, how do you measure that?
Even if they do cooking practical, most likely they will be clean during
They
that
will,
practical.
yes, they will go out
Be
of their way. Exactly,
very cautious that this is an assessment.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Israel, you have the floor, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, my doctor. Good evening, my dear sister. Thank you very much for this session. I don't want to lend my voice to what our amiable doctor just said. This is experiential to me, and I just want clarity. I was surprised some statement we are coming from. I went for an interview just of recent. So the HR team first of all started by saying they were surprised seeing MPhil stroke PhD. I was confused there. He said this was strange to him coming from an HR. I was not telling her, after my master's, I didn't score 4.0. So I have to go through MPhil. How is that strange? But I didn't, because he deviated from I didn't see how that correlated with the interview session. But maybe he was trying to make a point, but I didn't argue. But what amazes me was that they were talking about performance metrics. Just like you said, virtually 80% of what they said were scenarios. Trying to X these scenarios. What did you do? These scenarios, what and what and what and what. I was not telling them, okay, for these scenarios is relative based on where I was coming from. This was how I handled it. And I discovered that at the end of the day, about 80%, sorry, sir, about 80% of those cases, we are not just abstract, but we are outside the job description. I'm now asking, is he on the normal template to ask those questions that are 50% outside the job description? I need to ask our HR consultant if they are really in line by asking those questions. Then secondly, they got me confused, because I know all of us will gain from this. First level, they gave me feedback that I was successful. Second level, after the process, they wrote me again. They sent me an email that I was successful, waiting for the final stage. I was surprised. The final stage, all what the oga, the so-called owner of the company, was saying is that they didn't have license for this. How will I handle the situation if DSS or if a law enforcement agent comes around? And answer that these are red flags. So I don't know what do you think as an applicant one can do at this stage? Of course, I'm here to get final feedback from them, because first and second level, they said I was successful. I don't know, maybe the way I answered the question before the so-called CEO asking me how will I deal with scenario again if they came, because they are yet to, is a crypto trading currency, that they are yet to get their, sorry for going this far, so that all applicants can learn from the way some of these organizations go outside HR consultancy organization and set up. So please, I don't know what you have to say to this professionally. Thank you, sir. I don't know, maybe if I really made a point.
All right, thank you so much for your question. I didn't quite catch the question exactly. I was a little bit lost, sir. Mr. Oliemi, Dr. Oliemi, please can you paraphrase the question?
So, two things that he spoke around generally. One, that in the process of the assessment, multiple levels, at some point they were asking questions from him, the candidate, that technically does not have any bearing with the job description.
Okay.
You know, yeah, maybe just generic questions, general questions that in quote are not competency based.
Okay.
That what's your opinion on those kind of questions? The second question is asking for clarity, advice on, is that he said at the final interview, they were now asking him questions like, for example, we don't have license for part of our operation. Mention the case of maybe crypto, which in Nigeria maybe is not licensed yet. That if DSS comes or if police law enforcement comes, how will he handle that kind of question? And he's already seeing like this could be some form of red flag. Should you be dealing in an unlicensed, so to speak, business or line of business, as the case may be, even though sometimes some organizations, in anticipation of a likely approval, may be doing some background work so that when license comes, we won't be starting from zero. But I don't know the organization, I don't have details, but that's the best I could make out of the.
All right, thank you so much for that question, sir. So, for the first part of the question, where he asked that when he went for the, I think first level interview, that he was asked some questions that he felt were not particularly related to the job role. Sometimes it's not about how directly related that the questions have, right? Sometimes you ask questions not just because you're relying on the answer that the candidate will give you. Sometimes you might ask questions to explore their critical thinking capability. You just want to know, how does this person's mind work? Do you understand? So it's not necessarily about the questions that are asked and the answers that are given. Do you understand? Another thing is, I think you mentioned some scenario based questions that were asked about not having the license to practice cryptocurrency, and he felt like that was a red flag for the organization that he was coming to work with. Um, it depends on, for me, in that kind of situation, I mean, I would be trying to ascertain where my role is coming, where I come in. Like, for example, imagine you go for an HR interview, an interview as an HR executive, and they are asking you about the regulators in the industry, like NSITF, and some tax related bodies like that, and some things that you're supposed to know. In this kind of scenario now, they're asking you that they don't have license. What do you think would happen? Sometimes it might be a red flag. At the same time, it might not be a red flag. They might want to know how well you know the industry. What are the things that you think that they should have? If they don't have the license, what should happen in that kind of scenario? Okay, if they are apprehended, what is their feedback supposed to be? Do you understand? That's where I don't know if I would say critical thinking even comes to play. But then it helps you to, I mean, they are trying to ascertain, how well you know the industry, how well you know the documentations that they are supposed to have. Are you aware of how the industry is regulated? Do you understand? For me, it's not necessarily a red flag, and at the same time, it might be a red flag. Maybe they don't have license, but then you wouldn't know. You wouldn't even know that too until you start working with them. I mean, it's not like they will tell you that they don't have the license, and it's not like from the interview so you will know whether they have the license or not. But then I'm just saying that things are not black and white, basically. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, doctor, because even though from the setup, there's no indication that this is an organization, just like a residential, buying a whole building and doing your crypto business within the organization. So no signboard, no signal, nothing is within residential. Honestly, that was I also did. I didn't even take that serious. I said, well, maybe they are trying to cool their heads, but at that final state, hearing all those, of course, I told the Oga that, well, I should be able to represent the company well, regardless of whoever comes around, no matter of the level of assault and all that. But my own, because it's an operational management position as an operational manager. So I was not trying to put the whole of this together and say, well, I may not start refer, but the way they are even dealing, beginning from the HR processes and all that. So that's why I just want your professional take so that it won't be, it won't
Okay,
dampen
so
what
is
for
noted,
me, I mean,
and it has been
when you ask
responded
that,
to.
yes,
The issues
so
has been well
question
addressed.
the question you asked, right, was what I answered, right? But then when you provide more context to this question, for me, I feel like that's not a red flag, it's a red banner. I mean, the onus now falls back on you to, do your own due diligence about the organization. You can ask questions. I mean, you're well within your rights to ask questions, the information that you need to know. I mean, you're coming in as an operations manager. It's not a junior role, it's a senior role. If you're going to be working in that capacity for them, if they are licensed, you should know, right? So I mean, there are questions that you
Thank
are
you
well
so
within
much.
your own rights to ask questions, just like they're
Thank
asking
you
you
so
questions.
much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, before my license is withdrawn, we need to end this session. Time is up. That's why I've been trying to get our attention. Okay.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, before I allow mute everyone so that we can appreciate our facilitator and voice our appreciation. This is excellent. Thank you so much for volunteering to share from your words of experience and for taking us through this route. It has been of immense benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's unmute, not to ask questions, but to thank our facilitator. Okay, in case people need to reach out to you personally, officially. Don't call her tonight, please. Call her from 8 o'clock tomorrow. I'm speaking from experience. People used to call me immediately after me. So don't call her tonight. She's a mother, she's everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nemsi.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Okoye.
Very needed
Thank
training.
you.
Thank you so much.